Good evening, you guys. We're going to be learning tonight about solving multiplication and division equations. We've learned how to solve addition and subtraction equations, and if you remember the ideas and the principles and the way that we solve those, you should have no problem solving multiplication and division equations. There's two I want you to know. There's the division property of equality, and the division property of equality just states that when you're working with an equation, an equal sign, you can divide both sides by the same number. In this case, let's divide them both by 2. And you're going to have a true statement. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. As long as you divide both sides of the equal sign by the same number, you're going to have a true statement or the same answer. Now, the same is true as long as you're dividing by the same number, you will have the same answer. Multiplication property of equality. If you multiply both sides of the equal sign by the same number, then you're going to have a true statement as well. The example would be 3 times 3 equals 9, and 3 times 3 equals 9. As long as you're multiplying by the same number, you will get the same answer. Okay, now let's look at some problems. 7h equals 154. What this is really saying is 7 times h equals 154. So what we do in this case is we're going to draw our line straight down. Okay, just like we've always done. Now we figure out what's being done to the variable. In this case, we're multiplying. So we're going to do the opposite. Just like when we were adding, we would subtract. When we were subtracting, we would add. So if it's asking us to multiply, we're going to divide. We're going to do the opposite, divide by 7, because remember, we go on the same side as the variable. So we divide one side by 7. That's going to cancel those out and leave us just with h. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 154 divided by 7. Now, I'm not sure what this is, so I'm going to need to go off to the side and go 154 divided by 7. 7 doesn't go into 1. It goes into 15 twice. You get 14. Subtract, you're going to get 1. Bring down the 4. 7 goes into 14 twice. So the answer in this case is h equals 22. Again, let's look at that one more time. You do the opposite operation. We're multiplying here, so we're going to divide. You got to divide both sides by 7. You're going to be left with h equals 22. True for a division problem. Remember, a fraction is really a division. So you take a divided by 5. You're going to draw your line straight down. You're going to say what's being done to the variable. In this case, we're dividing by 5. So we're going to multiply, do the opposite, multiply by 5. That's going to cancel the 5s out. We're going to be left with a. Then we're going to multiply the other side by 5 because to keep it balanced, you have to do the same thing to both sides of the equal sign. Now we've got 14 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. A negative times a positive is going to give you a negative. A equals negative 60. Okay, now you should have already gotten your book out. We're working on page 301 through 303. The lesson is 16.2. Now your paper, you're going to do a couple problems with me as I do them. Then I'm going to give you some practice problems. So pause the recording, go get a piece of paper and something to write with. Okay, now we're back and we are going to solve these together. So you should write these down. X over 3 is equal to 8 and 4x is equal to negative 28. If you haven't done that, pause the recording, write those down. Now do this with me. We're going to draw our line on this first one. Okay, that's the first step to solving any of these equations. Then we ask what's being done. We're dividing by 3, so we're going to do the opposite, which is multiply by 3. You got to do it to both sides, multiply by 3. That's going to cancel these 3's out. We're going to be left with just x on this side. Then we've got 8 times 3, and 8 times 3 is 24. So your answer to problem 1 would be x equals 24. Now, on the guided practice for number 2, Do this with me. Draw your line straight down. What's being done right here to 4 and x? You go to the same side as the variable, and you look what's being done. We're multiplying by 4. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by 4. Divide the other side by 4. That cancels those 4's out. We're left with x. 28 divided by 4. What times 4 is going to give you 28? That would be 7. Now, it's a negative divided by a positive, so your answer is actually going to be negative 7. Again, look at what's being done to the variable. Do the opposite operation. Make sure you do it to both sides, and you're going to have your answer. It's really simple as long as you follow the simple steps. Here's a couple for you to try on your own. Try these problems. Pause the recording. Let's see what you get. I'll solve them with you, and hopefully you'll do well. Okay, so here we go. We're going to draw our line straight down. You're multiplying here. 8 times k equals 48. So you're going to do the opposite. Divide by 8. Divide by 8. That cancels this 8 out. That's over by the k. It leaves you with just k on one side of the equal sign. Then we're dividing 48 by 8, and you're going to get 6. K equals 6. Now with the other problem, you should have drawn your line straight down. Let's see, it's not going to let me, so I'm going to draw my line up. Now, what's being done here? We are dividing by 5, y divided by 5, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to multiply by 5 on both sides. That's going to cancel that out. We're going to be left with y on one side of the equal sign. 7 times 5 is going to give you 35. All right, you should have gotten k equals 6 and y equals 35. Hopefully that makes sense. Remember, you simply look at what's being done to the variable and you do the opposite operation. So if it's multiplying, you're going to divide. If it's dividing, you're going to multiply. It's that simple. Then you just need to remember the rules for integers and fractions and decimals. You guys should do great. All right, see you tomorrow.